Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about The Shipwrecked Men by Alvar, Nunez, Cabeza De Vaca. Sorry if I said that wrong, any Spanish speakers. Which was published in 1542 as La Relación y Comentarios, The Account and Commentaries, making this the new oldest book I've ever read, even though this is a translation. This is one of the Penguin Great Journeys series, and it is much abbreviated. Super abridged. The original text is about 3 times as long as this one. I feel like this is a taster book, a sort of, if you found this interesting, go and read the real one. It chronicles the Narvaez expedition in 1527, which was to explore Florida, following the Gulf Coast, moving inland in what is now Texas, then south into what is now Mexico. This is not written like a diary, it's written after the fact. It feels a lot more like a debriefing at the end of a mission. There are a lot of things glossed over quite early in the book, like people eating people. It's a very unemotional account, more like a bullet point list of events. I'm not going to do a rundown of the whole timeline of the expedition. It is very interesting though. Check it out. The Wikipedia page for it is quite good. It's probably actually better than this. Straight into this, you kind of get the flavour of how horrid the world was back then. The attitude towards conquest, the attitude towards people who aren't like you and are therefore savages. The main character is part of a company who is ordered by King Philip II of Spain to go to Florida, which I guess is within spitting distance of a lot of parts of the Caribbean, which were then under Spanish control, and just sort of see how much land you can get for Spain. It's mad. It's kind of the somebody behind a desk giving orders to people in the field, but the ultimate version of that. It's mad to me, like, really. What authority do you have to take land for yourself that people already live in? A lot of authority from this period of sort of exploration and imperial expansion was less that and more just, who's going to stop me? The main character really begins, the guy who wrote the book. I'll call him the main character though, for the purposes of this. I'm used to reviewing fiction, I don't do this very often. He starts by acting on the king's orders. That's at the forefront of the start of the book. And it becomes very clear that he puts Christianity on a pedestal above everything else. I think the expansion of empire must have been for several reasons in people's heads. Greed, obviously, just the big boys wanting more stuff. Expanding Christianity to get in God's good books, to get in the good books of the Pope, get some brownie points. C, honestly thinking it was your duty, wrongfully thinking it was your duty, to civilize people by bringing your culture to them. These are the justifications, I think, in people's heads. Obviously, greed is the only reason, but these are the reasons I think people lied to themselves with to justify what they were doing. I doubt during this period anybody had anybody else's best interests at the front of their mind, just their own material wealth and fame. One thing that's really hard to tell in here is honestly how reliable the narrator is. You get him constantly talking about religion, how devoted he is to God. When they smash their way into a village, nick a load of native people's food, he's like, oh, thanks to God for giving me this food. And whenever something bad happens to the party, it's because they're all sinners and they deserve everything that's happening to them. There are bits too where him and his mates go from camp to camp, village to village, supposedly healing people, making the sign of the cross over them and them getting miraculously better. And these people who get better are sort of weeping, giving freely all of their wealthy earthly possessions. It's like, You don't know if this is sort of the power of placebo, people bringing in this very ritualistic Christian faith, and then native people thinking it must be magic because it's so alien, or if the author is just wildly embellishing everything he's writing. Like, this whole thing could be a lie, and you have to really bear that in mind when you're reading historical fictional accounts. You also get a lot of accounts of them walking through villages and being randomly set upon or randomly attacked. And a lot of the time I was like, what did you do? What did you do to provoke that? Reading this, something that's interesting is the idea of pristine wilderness. North America was not pristine wilderness when these invaders came knocking, but they really write about it like it was. There are so many passages talking about untouched forest, land teeming with animals, wildlife and resources, and in the same breath talks about passing through the land again and again and again of various people and seeing a lot of people around. It really is the case that native North Americans were treated as little more than wildlife. The author doesn't understand the idea of a nomadic lifestyle at all, and to them everything is a resource, humans included. They walk into camps, start giving orders to people which are obeyed, because the invaders have a reputation for bringing death and destruction with them wherever they go, and these people are just crapping their pants. It talks about being lost in the woods and fighting some Indians so you can capture them and get them to lead you places and help carry your stuff. It's just crazy, like going to, I don't know, France, grabbing somebody off the street and being like, yeah, you work for me now, otherwise I'll kill you. Speaking about wilderness too, you often associate being shipwrecked with sort of a desert island or an island setting, because now, being stranded on a continent, you would never be far from something that is close to what you're used to in terms of civilization. So it's got a totally different vibe here to most shipwreck stuff. You also don't imagine that the main problem on a continent is going to be finding water, but that is what kills the most people in here. And think about it, if you were dumped in a swamp, had to find something to drink, and there was no such thing as plumbing, besides waiting for rain and catching the rain, you'd have no idea what you were doing. One of the things you notice and understand while you're reading this book is that there are so many distinct cultural groups in North America prior to European colonization. They're often lumped together as Native American, just under one sort of umbrella, especially in history taught to people outside of America. The narrator moves through areas, constantly meeting different languages, different beliefs, and he does note that. It makes sense. I often personally forget how big the US is. These cultural areas are the size of European countries, some of them. So I guess it does make a lot of sense. There's not really a big exploration of culture in here. And what you do have, you again have to take with a pinch of salt, because it is written by an outsider hand, somebody who's very unsympathetic to non-Christians, and years afterwards. One cultural thing he does note, though, with a big ugh, is how in some areas there are men who dress as women, live as women, do female tasks around the village, and often marry men. I think it's interesting reading stuff about how acting outside of your societally accepted gender norms has only become taboo fairly recently, and historically it was something that did happen. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars. It's not the kind of thing I read at all, generally. But I guess it made me want to go and learn some more stuff, so I can't say I 100% hated it. If I was going to go out of my way to read something about the period this was written in, I'd prefer something unabridged. But I guess this is suitable for a younger reader, maybe, just to get a taste. So thanks for tuning in for my teeny review of a teeny book. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, which I'll link down below, Goodreads, which I'll link down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, more reviews coming thick and quick, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.